Good evening, this is Brastak Samzaka. Jacob, the seer of the Muruga mutt, who was accused by two minor girls of rape and sexual assault, was finally arrested in a dramatic late-night operation last night. But after 6 days and after immense pressure on the Karnataka police. But the drama did not end with his arrest. In fact, today, even before he could be produced in court, he had to be rushed to hospital because the Swamiji complained of chest pain. And while he was produced in court, the court was surprised that the police have not even called him in for questioning for even 1 day. Therefore, the court has ordered that he be sent to police custody till the 5th of September. Whether before arrest, during arrest, or even post-arrest, it seems to be very clear that this accused Swamiji seems to be getting the VVIP treatment, not like one that would be meted out to any other accused. So what makes him so special that the law of the land does not apply to him? That's what we'll debate. But first, the story of what happened on a dramatic day in Chitradurga today.
A dramatic late-night arrest at the Sri Muruga mutt in Karnataka's Chitradurga. 6 days after he was booked for raping two minors, the law has finally caught up with Lingayat Seer Shivamurthy Sharanaru. Under heavy security, he was presented before the magistrate court, which sent him to 14 days judicial custody.
People have all gathered here in a huge number as they heard this news of the seer being arrested, how the barricades in hundreds are being placed at DC Circle and at the multiple locations to ensure that the law and order situation is in place and no untoward incident takes place.
But the very next morning, he was rushed to the hospital after complaining of chest pain.
They have done ECG for Muruga Sharanaru. Now it is showing some changes regarding myocardial infarction. Heart attack changes are there.
The excuses, though, fell flat. The seer was taken to the district court in a wheelchair, where he was remanded to police custody till the 5th of September.
You can see the vehicle is very much being parked in front of the court, and that's the entry gate that we're getting to see. There's a police vehicles too being parked right in front of the police. In fact, wanted his custody for 5 days, asked the court for it, and the court says without accused, how will a law even let you for a custody? So the accused will at any cost will have to be present in front of the court.
The seer is facing charges under the Prevention of Children Against Sexual Act and the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Act because one of the victims is a Dalit. The two girls are aged 15 and 16 years. The seer is accused of beating them and sexually assaulting them for over 2 years with the help of a lady warden, a junior pontiff and other staff. The arrest came only after massive outrage against the Basavaraj Bommai government for not doing enough.
ಕಾನೂನು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತನಾಡುವುದು ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮುಕ್ತವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Many have blamed the political patronage the seer enjoyed across party lines for the police initially going slow on him. Given the Lingayat community's political clout in an election-bound state, most parties have either maintained silence on the issue or come out in support of the seer.
However big or low a person may be, the offence POCSO law is very clear. I was not happy that many political parties, even our own president, Congress President Mr. Kumar said, he's a noble person.
So will the seer's clout come in the way of a free and fair probe in the case?
All right, so will his clout, it was evident before the arrest and during the process of arrest, will it come in the way of the victims getting justice? Mithun Vijay Kumar is activist, Ganesh Prasad petitioner and lawyer, Rashmi Samant is former president of the Oxford Students' Union, Vimalapati Patabi is senior advocate, and T.R. Prasad Gowda, senior leader of the JDS, Gopal B. Hosur is former Karnataka Inspector General of Police. Let me start with Mithun Vijay Kumar. Clearly, the fact that the police took 6 days to arrest the seer, be that as it may, finally they did arrest him yesterday. But even after that, over the last 24 hours, whether it was rushing him to hospital, producing him in court, and the court itself was so surprised, how come he has not been questioned for even an hour, let alone arrest? Is the seer getting VVIP treatment even after arrest?
See, the police, as far as I understand, have acted in accordance with the law. and the investigation was undergoing right from the time the case was registered. Now, in general cases, what we see is for a normal person, for a normal man, for a common man, the moment an FIR is filed, he gets registered. But for a high-profile case, maybe this person is getting a preferential treatment, that the police is investigating this matter at a preliminary stage, and then they are taking action. So during this process, right from the time the FIR was registered, the police has investigated. They have thoroughly interrogated many people, and yesterday,
But
after 3 to 4 hours of
Mithun, can you
interrogation,
please
they
tell
have
me
arrested the Swami.
if
And
there was
today,
any other
let
accused in
me
place of the
finish. Allow me to
Swamiji?
finish.
One second. No need to get so excited. In place of this Swamiji, if there was any other accused, do you think the police would have taken 6 days to arrest him?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I told you, in the beginning itself. That if it was a common man, they would have immediately arrested him. But that's not the process of law. The law itself demands that you.
So the process of law is that you have to wait for 6 days, give him VVIP treatment, and then arrest him. Roll out the red carpet, then arrest him. Is that the process of law?
Allow me to finish.
No. I will allow you to finish, provided you give me, a cogent, legal, logical reasoning. Is it your case that the cops should have rolled out the red carpet for him?
No. I don't see that the red carpet is being rolled out for him. The only thing I see is that the police is actually following the procedure because it's a high-profile case and they can't arrest him like any other common man.
So that's what I was asking you. Is it procedure to take 6 sweet days, sit comfortably, and then allow this gentleman who had the premises where supposedly these crimes took place, the access and the opportunity to destroy evidence, and then after the public and media pressure became so big that they had no choice but to arrest him? That is the normal procedure of law for any accused?
As far as I understand, the police was interrogating people associated with this case. He was even stopped from crossing Karnataka to other state.
Can you name a few people who they were interrogating?
See, I don't know the names personally, but the police, as far as I know, and this is reported in many news media, it's not that I'm making it up, I'm not cooking up the stories.
Okay.
It has happened. They have
Ganesh
interrogated
Prasad,
people.
I find it quite amazing that
after
Mithun thinks that this is the normal process of law. If instead of Shivamurthy Sharanaru, this gentleman's name was Ganesh Prasad or Mithun or Zaka or Rashmi, I'm sure the police would not have extended the same kind of treatment, wait for 6 days before the arrest happened, and that too very, very stringent provisions, mind you, ladies and gentlemen. POCSO, SC/ST Act, these are not normal provisions. Ganesh Prasad.
Yes, these provisions are very heinous in crime. So because of that, there should be a total vigilant investigation in this matter. But I fail to understand why it took 6 days for them to arrest him.
Exactly.
And subsequently, an arrest has been occurred. And right now, the investigation has been in the process. And is rather than him restraining or certain hamper of certain kind of what do you consider this as certain kind of tampering the witnesses or anything, which I'm not saying that might have happened, but it is restraining those kind of activities. So the only thing would be more considerate is when a POCSO matter has been involved, I believe that they should have taken the accused immediately into custody for compliance of 53A for a rape case where a medical examination should be done by the accused. These lapses are not to be considered. As per Article 14, everyone's equal before the eyes of law. Taking this as a ratio, I believe that the investigation is being like a bit misled, so which made us the motive to file this petition before the Honorable High Court.
No, the most important thing, and I asked Rashmi Samant this, the most important thing is in high-profile cases where the accused is seemingly, Rashmi, an influential person, a very powerful person, and the accused continues to stay in the place where allegedly this crime took place for 6 days after the complaint became public. There were other children who were there in that mutt who have been moved out of there, and rightfully so, and they should be under police protection right now. But the said accused person has all access for the last 6 days to destroy evidence if he so chooses.
In fact, I'm appalled that it took so long for the arrest, and that, even if, the ruling party is behaving a certain way, none of the opposition parties put any pressure. Everybody was almost silent. it's appalling to see, this kind of how bad vote bank politics is, and how low politicians are willing to stoop for a few meager votes. I mean, this is a human rights issue. It's violation of rights of very young girls, and whatever be the case, whatever the judgment, I think it's very unfair that the arrest happened so late. I mean, there will be sufficient time to, prove whether things were right or wrong. I don't know why there was so much delay in making the arrests. I'm actually quite ashamed in the way that things are playing out in my own home state. And as a woman, it's appalling that, there is alternative treatment to perpetrators of such crimes based on what their background is, what their history is. It's appalling to see that. I mean, if a high profile person commits a crime, then there's a different sort of treatment, and if a low profile person commits the crime, then there's something else going on here. And also the fact that there's elections next year, that seems to be contributing heavily to why,
Absolutely.
Why or not. I mean, it's appalling to see this kind of degeneration in our society in this day and age.
I want to ask Gopal Hosur, as a respected former police officer, the police have not really covered themselves in glory in this case. Certainly not. Far from it, because there has to be a compelling reason. I can understand, political pressure is always going to be there. It's a way of life, and you will be the first one to attest to that. But in a case like this, where young children are involved, stringent provisions of POCSO are involved. One of the victims, I believe, happens to be from the Dalit community, and there is so much more scrutiny in that cases because the SC/ST Act applies. How and what explanation do you believe the police has as to why they waited 6 days to forget about arrest? I mean, arrest is just one step, but even call in this seer for questioning. Mr. Hosur, you have to unmute yourself, please. Thank you. You have to unmute yourself, sir. You're on mute.
See, I think you have raised a very valid point. Why there is so much of delay.
I can hear you, yeah.
And why was not the alleged accused called for questioning immediately after the case was registered? Yes, I agree with you that the police, the investigating agency, ought to have called the accused for preliminary questioning at least. Now we should also look at this case in a total perspective. This case has come to light maybe 1 year in case of one girl, 6 months in case of another girl, and the girls went missing. They were in captivity for some time. Then they went to an NGO, made their statements. They were in their custody. The CWC recorded their statements. Then a case was registered in Nazarbad police station. The case was transferred to the jurisdictional police station of Chitradurga. They registered further case and they took up investigation. In my opinion, this is not a great delay at all in any case, because this is, as you rightly said, in case of some non-descript person, the law would have been very fast. Now, in this case, also, in my opinion, in every case, whether high and mighty or a very ordinary citizen, the law should follow the set process. Now, in this case, 164 statement recording is mandatory.
Yes.
I'll put you a hypothetical question. Presume for a moment, if the two girls, victims, had retracted their statement in 164, would the pontiff's accused arrest would have been justified? The whole media would be against the police for not following the due procedure. I think in this, you must give credit to the police. And also, to some extent, I won't want to get into politics. The political executive of the state, the Honorable Chief Minister, he has said not interfere in the investigation.
Sir, I'll come back to you in 1 second. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with what Mr. Hosur is saying. I think it was an extraordinary delay in the arrest of this Swamiji. There is an audio problem with Mr. Hosur. We'll try and fix that. And I frankly can't think of any reason why any logical explanation as to why the police should have taken that much time. But be that as it may, even as they took 6 days to arrest this Swamiji, what we have seen after that, Prasad Gowda, what we have seen after that is this gentleman is taken to the jail. He's remanded to judicial custody. Within a few hours, he complains of back pain, throat pain, then chest pain, and then suddenly there is talk of him having a cardiac arrest. He's moved to a government hospital. So before he was produced in court today, of the time that he spent in custody, more time was spent in hospital than in custody. I mean, would this kind of VVIP treatment be extended to anybody or everybody?
Sir, can I answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The present government, Bommai-led government, under shivering position. Now they are in a dilemma whether to how to take up this case, how to take forward this case, and because they are dependent on Lingayat vote banks, and we as a opposition parties carefully watching what government is going to do. As a matter of fact, as we earlier debates, we already mentioned that the law and order in the state of Karnataka has totally collapsed. We have seen series of killings, series of robberies. Nobody is happy across the state, and only they are provoking the situations, sentimental issues. Now the thing is, now it has come up to the arrest of.
But Gowda Saab, can I ask one simple question? I heard a soundbite of your leader, H.D. Kumaraswamy, a day or so after the case came to light. And he said the seer is a respectable man, let the law take its own course. I believe there was an MLC, I think, from your party who went into the mutt saying that he's an old friend of the seer. I have not seen anybody from your party condemn what has happened. I have not seen anybody from your party come and unequivocally support the victims and say that they have a right to justice and that whoever this person is, however influential or powerful he may be, he needs to be brought to justice. I have not heard anybody say that from your party. I'm sorry.
No, our leader, party leader Kumaraswamy's meant was he is a respectable person he was a respectable person. So far he was arrested because we didn't as such a person who are in the Matadipati of a big respectable Muruga Rajendra Matt. Nobody expects this person is going to do such a cheap kind of indulged into this kind of activity. Nobody expects that, first of all, because father is a father. Father should act as a father to the house, and when he himself fence itself is going into eat the land, everybody will get into that confusion. How come this man is going to do such in that dilemma? Maybe people are quiet, but
I want to go to Mr. Patabi, the senior advocate.
No, one second.
Just a very simple question, Mr. Patabi. You're a lawyer. As I understand, when a case is registered under POCSO, immediately the victim's statement needs to be recorded. There has to be a child development officer. There has to be a magistrate. The statement has to be recorded in front of a magistrate. And right after that, the accused person needs to be called in for questioning. The victims came out and registered their complaint or filed their complaint on Friday last. Today is Friday. It's been 7 days before the police took any kind of precipitative action. Is this normal legal recourse or do you find this extraordinary?
Absolutely. This is extraordinary. And in fact, earlier one of our panelists was telling that normal case is one thing and the chief pontiff's case is another. I totally disagree with that because law does not discriminate between an ordinary man and a powerful man. So in these cases, especially when it is a sexual abuse against a minor, and that too when the FIR has been registered for not only POCSO, for 376B and SC/ST Act, the police have got a duty to immediately take or restrict the movements of the accused because one, the purpose of restricting the movement of an accused is to see that he does not flee, which we have earlier found out that he tried to flee. And second is that the scope for manipulation of witnesses or evidence does not arise. That is, he does not tamper or he does not indulge in situations which will hamper the investigation. So now the police in fact have given this Swamiji 6 full days of time to do what he wants. Now this is a very regrettable part thing committed by the police, which is not at all as is prescribed under the Code of Criminal Procedure. See, rule of law mandates that an accused is an accused. He doesn't have a status. An accused stands as a person who has committed an offense and is liable to be prosecuted under law. So unfortunately here what we are seeing is that they are applying and people are canvassing and projecting two different standards, saying ordinary people is one thing,
exactly,
a man of high repute is another thing. So this is totally unacceptable. This is not what law says, and if this sort of yardstick is to be taken, then our country is losing its competence of rule of law.
Absolutely.
We are not here to violate rule of law. We are all, as my friend was telling, Article 14 of the Constitution, equality before law and equal protection of laws. Equal protection of laws. Do not these two minor girls stand the guarantee given by Article 14 for equal protection of laws? So instead of speaking of that, why do you speak? In fact, in our criminal justicing system, the criminal justicing system in our country is basically inclined towards the accused, no doubt about that. The accused has got every right to engage the best of the advocates to defend himself with whatever theory he wants to defend himself, but only on surrendering to the process of law. By surrendering himself and making himself available to the process of law, then the question of whatever plea you raise or whatever defense you take up comes in. Here, as your channel has been seeing, as I have been participating in the last few discussions here, the saddest part we have been seeing is that political leaders, film actresses, social personalities, name it, all of them have been coming and giving a class certificate, a total clean certificate, which was not warranted. This sort of mass support or mass certification for the chief pontiff, we may agree, I am not questioning that the pontiff is guilty, because this is only at the threshold.
Yes, the
an
starting of
FIR
the
is registered
investigation,
on a complaint. The police will investigate. Yes. Now, here, with this sort of massive government inaction, political pressure, social pressure, peer pressure, the police also will be rendered helpless. Like they are, in a way, walking on a knife edge. Like, if I do a particular thing, what will happen? If I don't do a particular thing, what will happen?
Okay.
So this sort of pressure, unfortunately, has been built up.
Let me ask Gopal B. Hosur, because the point that Mr. Patabi is making is absolutely valid. The idea that if the accused person happens to be somebody high profile, then the law, must be slower or should be thorough or should take its time before any precipitative action is taken. I don't buy that, sir, because the law is equal. Article 14 says equality before law. Whether the accused is you, me, or anyone else, the process and the procedure has to be the same. That, unfortunately, was not the case as far as this Seer is concerned. The police has just taken its own sweet time.
I think I fully endorse what the earlier panelist said, Mr. Patabi. Yes, the law is very important. The law has to take its own course. Sentiments have no value in enforcing the law. Now, you raised a very valid point at the initial discussion that the police ought to have called the Swamiji for the preliminary questioning.
Correct.
The moment the case was registered, I think that the police should have done. In fact, I would go a step forward. The Swamiji should have volunteered himself to appear before the police.
Exactly.
And come out with his view on the case that has been registered. But however, if you need to follow a procedure, the procedure takes a bit of a time. You can't hurry it through, because to do you are caught between the devil and the deep sea. If you falter in one process of law, that will become a technical flaw in due course of time. What public say, what leaders of opposition say, what politicians say, it hardly matters for the police. Police have to enforce the law of the land.
Okay.
They have to follow the established procedure. And there is an oversight of the court all the time and of the civil society. What cinema actors come and say or what politicians come and say hardly matters in investigation, because we have seen n number of cases where there has been a huge public sentiment against the police investigation. But yet the police have stood their ground. They have carried out investigation impartially. They have collected all the evidences and then produced brought it before the court.
No. While you may be
Ultimately,
right that
it's not
there have
just
been
the
a
police,
number of
it is the whole
cases
criminal
where
justice
public sentiment has been
system.
riled up and that has put needless pressure on the police. I agree with all of what you said. Arishi case is, of course, a prime example of that. But I do want to go back to Rashmi Samant on a very simple point, and that point is that there seems to be something amiss about, and I don't want to cast aspersions on all godmen or godwomen. Admittedly, there might be a number of them who are doing great work, but there seems to be a problem here with the likes of a Nityananda, an Asaram Bapu, even a Franco Molecule for that matter, a Ram Rahim. All of them, under the guise of being these holy men, have managed to have some kind of an immunity cover inside their mutts and ashrams as to no one can really go inside there, no one can really question what is going on there. And because the victims oftentimes happen to be from very poor and disadvantaged backgrounds, they're also too scared to come out and blow the whistle. And in these rare instances when they come out, the police then and the entire system takes its own sweet time in acting against the accused. Somebody needs to really start questioning what is going on in the name of gods and goddesses or in the name of godmen and godwomen, because there seems to be some kind of immunity cover. Of course, the politicians are also giving them a helping hand by giving certificates of good conduct, as one of the panelists said.
Right. I agree with you there. Irrespective of religion, religious institutions, there have been many cases. Even the Vatican has been accused of pedophilia, and
exactly.
A lot of these investigations have been, swept under the carpet, and such things have been happening. And there is some sort of insurance cover that comes from, being in these institutions, because faith is considered to be above logic in many cases. But I think that is not what our society stands for. That is not what our civilization stands for. And these little girls, they deserve a right to justice, an equal right to justice, irrespective of who their perpetrators are or what their status in society is.
Yeah.
And for that to happen, I think all of us need to really, separate our faith from institutions, because our faith will not end the day,
Correct.
any of these perpetrators are persecuted. I mean, the day Nityananda was persecuted, the faith didn't end. It's just that sometimes bad people end up in these positions and there is nothing that we can do. But when these incidences come out, the best that we can do is, investigate it properly, follow all the due course, and then, make the wrong right. That is the best that we can do as a society.
I think one point before I go to Mithun for the final word. One point, Rashmi, is you take any public institution, you take a school or a company or a business partnership, anything. There is some degree of oversight or regulatory oversight, or at least, if a crime allegedly happens, then, you have the right to either move courts or complain against the police. Somehow, in the cloak of these religious institutions, and you're right when you say, there seems to be some kind of an insurance cover. Even the police don't want to enter these premises for fear of some kind of backlash from the supporters of these godmen and godwomen. That needs to be, that cloak of immunity needs to come down.
Yes, and only that can only happen as a society. As a society, we need to take that collective step. Each one of us, irrespective of our religion, as a society, we need to take that step wherein we kind of see the right and wrong, and then we see logic in these things. We are all humans by the end of the day, and we need to clearly see that. And we need to also recognize the fact that our faith does not start and end with these people. Okay. And I mean, there is scope for investigation. He could be innocent, and that can be proven through the court of law that we have established for everybody within this country. So that needs to happen before somebody is given the clean sheet or not. And we cannot be, extending these privileges just because of the status or the sort of ancient heritage attached to
I'll give Mithun
position.
the final word. I have a minute to close. The question simply is, you say, what about the rights of the accused? And yes, Mr. Patabi was right when he said in our law, the accused have rights, and they should. But what about the rights of the victims? They are entitled to the same justice, the same law, that Mr. Shivamurthy Sharanaru is taking refuge in. I mean, the rights of the victims should also be kept in mind.
Definitely, definitely. That has to be kept in mind. But Mr. Patabi was wrong when he said that the law is inclined to the protection of the accused. In a case like POCSO, the general principle of law where the accused is deemed to be innocent unless proven otherwise doesn't apply. The accused is guilty and he has to prove his innocence. That's the case with POCSO. And we have seen many false POCSO cases being registered in the past. Last year, a Kerala mother who was accused of abusing her 13-year-old son for 3 years, the case was proven false and the child was forced into making such a statement. We have the case of Ramchandra Tiwari, a KV school teacher who was accused of rape and he was sentenced to prison for 7 years. And then the case came up and then it was proven that he never committed the crime and then he was acquitted. The Mumbai court last year itself called a POCSO case minor an unscrupulous person who's using the public money.
Mithun, just because there are one or two cases of misuse of a certain law. No, one second. Just because there are one or two cases of misuse of a certain law does not make a bad law. I mean, there is misuse of Section 302 also. Haven't people been wrongfully convicted for murder in this country? Of course they have. But anyway, I will leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all my guests. Sorry, I don't have the time to take all your names individually, but I will say this as a closing comment. As far as this case is concerned, the law must be seen to be more than fair. The victims have rights, and in this case, they have come from some of the most disadvantaged backgrounds. Young girl children, one of them from the Dalit community. The law must go, and I say this very, very responsibly, if need be, it must go out of its way to ensure that justice is done and seen to be done to these two victims. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again next time. Right on the other side, a special show on INS Vikrant, India's very first indigenously developed and built aircraft carrier.